Go.
So a short gap. They were told to relax, and just a few moments later, they're not relaxed at all. Off go these women's pairs. On your right, Leander Club, the full Leander Club crew of Redgrave and Deer, who have really set out like a rocket ahead of this composite of Paine and Slabbert.
You can see both crews have just moved away from the island, as we always see we're racing. And obviously they went to get to the booms, to get inside, to feel that sense of being safe, that there's no collisions. But obviously this Leander pair have obviously raced at the World Cup earlier this season, winning a bronze medal, which was incredible to see so many of our under-23 boats going there and doing so well. And then obviously they're going to try and progress into that Olympic squad as we move forward towards Paris.
Yeah, this crew here just taking the lead, half a length Leander Club. We've got Susie Deer and Sam Redgrave, who, you know, like you say, they've picked up a medal of bronze at the 3rd World Cup of the season in Slabbert, and they were part of that Project Paris group, we're calling it. So they've stepped on from under-23s. They're in that transitional period between under-23s and the full-time squad that trains at Caversham, and exciting that that group of athletes can be picking up medals on the world stage. These girls are really ones to watch.
Yeah, and I think that was what was really nice about the 3rd World Cup. It was a chance to see the future talent that's coming through, and obviously they really made their mark at that event. You know, they raced really well. Lots of them won some small medals or minor medals, but they've been on the podium, and that's part of what's so important, which we didn't get that much of in Tokyo. But these athletes have obviously got a sense of that now. They want those medals, and they want to get those seats as they move towards Paris.
And in the small boats as well, Mark, we can't forget that, you know, being able to move a small boat, yes, it's great getting medals in the big boats, the 4s and the 8s, but having a pair that can medal at that international level, it's a lot trickier, and you're sort of deemed as a better boat mover if you can get the pair or the double or whatever, the single to move well.
I always class it to learn your trade, you know, learning the smaller boats, learning those fundamental skills that you can take into the bigger boats. You know, it's easy to, I know it sounds probably, I don't want to play down how difficult it is to be an 8, but learning those finer skills is so important, because then you can adapt and work with different athletes with different maybe techniques and bringing them together. So it's a real skill component, and I think sometimes it is underestimated how important that is. So rowing in this particular boat class, you know, they're really establishing themselves and really a commanding lead there.
Yeah, they've got a good lead in the pairs. Obviously, we've seen throughout the regatta, leads in singles and pairs and doubles can change quite dramatically. It's very easy to change the boat speed at the sort of snap of the fingers, and pick the boat up. They're, you know, the lightest of the boat categories in the sweep side of things. And so, actually, there could still be an opportunity for Paine and Slabbert to come back into this. Now, Sophie Paine in the bow seats for this composite, ex-president of Cambridge University Boat Club. She was actually born in the Bahamas before going to Brown University and then on to Cambridge. So a really interesting progression she's made through the sport. She's now at Leander after finishing her time at Cambridge, and she's being joined by Megan Slabbert, the University of London athlete. So again, I think real quality in this crew that's trailing as well, and perhaps they'll be again looking to step on into the shoes of the likes of Sam and Susie that line up alongside them.
And I think there's a real good buzz around the women's project or program at Leander now. You know, they're being very successful. They're in, I think there's 9 Leander women's boats in semi-finals today, so there is something kind of building, some momentum going there. And I don't want to say it's down to person in charge. It's my young brother Ross. He's doing a great job with his, you know, the infrastructure he's putting there, the culture he's creating, and the way those athletes are buying into that. And you know, there is a kind of family feel. They're all really supportive of each other, and that really shows when they come to an event like Henley and being so competitive, but also making all these semi-finals, and hopefully a lot of them will move on to finals tomorrow.
Yeah, and testament here to the fact that 75% of these athletes in this semi-final are from Leander, with the exception of Slabbert in the stroke seat of the right-hand side of your pitch. You can see the different lycra, the different strip, the UL purple, the University of London purple. But I think we also need to give a nod to the crews that create the sort of clubs that created these Leander athletes, because you know they come to Leander to take the next step in their rowing career, to try and make the squad. But you know, looking at Deer and Redgrave previously, Susie Deer, Oxford Brookes University, she learnt to row at. Sam Redgrave, she was a member at Norwich Rowing Club whilst doing her degree at the University of East Anglia. That, you know, they're made by these other clubs, and Leander just fine-tune and nurture and give them that next step, right?
I think that's the important part, is, you know, you've got to start your journey somewhere, and then you've always got to take that next step. And we've all kind of gone through that process. I started in the East End at Poplar, and then moved to Leander, and they enabled me to continue my career and keep progressing. And it's always trying to find that next step, which the environment which can really help you evolve and develop is so important. And that's why these kind of, I don't call them centres of excellence, you know, the kind of big clubs are really able to do that, to enable these athletes to continue their journey. But they should take pride of where they've come from as well. I mean, their roots is so important.
Yeah, and they've created a good baseline for this. The Project Paris crew of Redgrave and Deer, who are down now at 25 strokes a minute. They've really let up just to try and maintain a little bit of efficiency. They're coming past Hambleden Club there with the flags on the left-hand side of your screen. You can just see the gap that they continue to press away from, despite the fact that their rating's so low. I mean, like I said, in small boats, that's extremely impressive.
Yeah, it's the efficiency they're moving. And I think when you have two small boats, like any boat racing side by side, you want to take that advantage, get in front. And then once you get that space, you are able to switch, you know, not switch off, but relax. And sometimes when you start relaxing, you just sometimes get more boat speed out of it by not being so tense, not being so aggressive, just letting the whole move underneath you.
Yeah, the crew on the right here, the composite from the University of London and Leander, just having to chase it somewhat, Paine and Slabbert. And look, this is really a very, very quality crew. Like we said, both of these crews, and it just shows you how fast Deer and Redgrave are, and that both Paine and Slabbert in the other crew that we can't see off screen were silver medalists at the under-23s in the women's 8 back in Sarasota in 2019. So that doesn't tell you something about the exciting group of athletes we've got coming through. I don't know what does.
And I think that's great that this event allows these athletes to come here and compete. You know, you talked about the depth of talent in this race. That's pretty incredible, to be honest. You know, we've got these athletes that they're on that pathway, and we look forward to seeing them progress, them keep evolving, keep developing, and having some big performances as they progress towards Paris.
And I think, like we've been talking about throughout each day at the regatta, and the new events that are coming in, the Hambleden Pairs Challenge Cup, still in its infancy, 2017, its first year at the regatta, and we're only going to see more strength and depth coming through these pairs races. Of course, not really too much in the way of international competition, although we have had plenty of international interest and entries here across this week. No international competition here in this race at the moment, but it has attracted the likes of, you know, Kerry Gowler and Grace Prendergast, who won it in its first year in its inception, and they went on to become Olympic champions this year in Tokyo.
And I think that's so important, that, you know, the excitement that it's created for those different boat classes coming in, and, you know, people come from all over the world. Obviously, they're not here this year because they've just won the Olympics. They've won the gold in the pair, and then won a silver in the 8. So I'm sure they're enjoying themselves back home. But it's the class of athletes that come to Henley now across a broad spectrum, from kind of under-18s right the way up to internationals. And that is, we talk about the uniqueness of Henley, rubbing shoulders with your idols in amongst the boat tents, the boat area. Unfortunately, that's not happening so much this year, but once we kind of progress into next year, I'm sure we'll be back to normal, and those big international crews will be back.
Yeah, the big international crews will be back. There's no international entries in this Hambleden Challenge Pairs Saturday racing. We've got the other semi-final to look forward to at 11:50 a.m. And the winners here, which I expect will be Leander in these next few strokes, will either go up against Tideway Sculler School or Lee Rowing Club. So we've got that one to look forward to in just 40 minutes' time. But there are your victors who will progress through to the final. Deer and Redgrave, who will make their way back to their home club on home water at Leander Club.